I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Ropers, are you ready to step up your game? My online course, The Basics of Roping, is built for beginners, but packed with tools to help ropers of all levels sharpen their skills. With over 2 hours of instruction, frame-by-frame swing breakdowns, when to turn your hand over to keep your loop open, when and where to let go of your rope so you can get the horns in the middle of that loop, over 15 dummy drills to simulate real-life runs, you'll have everything you need to improve. Go to charlycrawford.training and follow the link under the course tab to get started today. Coleby Payne, thanks for coming on, my man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to be here on this podcast.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. I know it's a busy week. It's a busy winter. Man, you and Clay Smith have had a great winter. Man, coming off a great NFR. You guys are having a stellar winter, second in the world with 47,000. How has the winter gone from Denver up to this point?
It's gone good. We did good at Odessa. Started off, I think we might have won third in the average. No good at Denver. Fort Worth, San Antonio. We made it back at Houston. We go back tomorrow. We did good at Tucson. Really everywhere we've been, we hadn't hit one big home run, but we're kind of just getting good checks everywhere.
Yeah, I seen that. So we're watching here like Tucson, and this is Clay Smith's stud that he's riding, Roan stud.
Uh-huh.
And he's looked green a little bit when I was seeing him kind of crack him out a little bit this late last fall. But Clay has always been, he's such a good jockey. He can help that horse get seasoned, and he's just getting stronger and better. And I love how flat he is. Lets him use his rope, fast-footed, looks like he's able to put the steers where he wants them.
No, I've noticed that too. Like, he was tempted to crack him out at the NFR. He rode him at your military roping, and then he was maybe just a hair green. So he had him in Vegas on standby, didn't use him. This winter, it's kind of been a light switch, though. Like you said, Clay is handy, but he just kind of went to riding him. And Clay has roped awesome all winter. I mean, I can't really think of many steers that he's messed up, and that horse just stays out of his way, and
he's an assassin.
Letting him rope.
He is such an assassin. I mean, the way he's able to ride those horses. I remember Marty. I think he cracked Marty out of 5.
Yep.
And he's just such a good jockey. He doesn't pick on him. He lets them figure it out. And he's got such a good style that he's able to rope with and stay out of their way, but still keep guiding them where they need to be. And we're watching some runs now from San Antonio. It takes a special horse to be able to go from San Antonio to Tucson.
Oh, for sure.
You got the steers were at San Antonio that the shot's going to be right there. A 16-foot box. It's probably 1 foot under, give or take. So the steers are going to be, roughly 16 feet away. Then you go to Tucson, and it's a 20-some foot box. So you're going to be having to make up some time and some gain, and that horse has done great at both of them.
No, he has. And if you watch like the short round steer at Tucson, we thought that steer was a little bit better than he was. That steer tried pretty good. If Clay didn't have some wheels underneath him, like going left into the fence like that, a guy could have gotten a bind, but he's been pretty excited about that because it was kind of before my time, but when Clay did crack Marty out, that was his horse. It didn't matter where it was. That's what he was riding, and he's kind of getting the same feel on this one, going over the gates with it or setups like Tucson.
Well, just how impressive is this? I texted Clay, and he said that horse is 8, and he's never been roped on until he was 7. He was a reigning cow horse from the 4-6s. He's a son of a bet guys, don't torture me here. Bet Haza cat, I think.
Bet he's a cat.
Bet he's a cat. Oh, yeah, Bet he's a cat. Yep. Out of an own daughter of Stoli on the bottom. Okay, so that's like a gypsy horse I got, Stoli on the bottom. Best advice, Stoli. So there's where speed's coming then, too.
Mm-hmm.
So the cow horse. So he's bred cow horse on top, speed on the bottom. But how impressive is that? He had been roped on till he was 7, and this year he's 8, and he's just spinning them back and winning second in the world. Yeah, that's just how handy that cat is, huh?
Yep,
it's phenomenal.
Sure.
And then you've got a new heel horse.
Yep.
Correct?
I just bought Turbo from Patrick.
And then how many times has that heel horse won the world on the AQHA PRCA heel side?
He's won heel horse of the year the last 3 years in a row.
He looks like a game changer.
He is, and I love my bay. Like, that's kind of been my horse the last couple years once I got with him, but I was at a spot that I've kind of just hit my prime, and I got to experience some cool stuff last year, and I felt like, man, if, say something did happen to my bay or my bay gets sore, like, I've been trying a bunch of horses that cost pretty good money and horses that I felt like, I can throw him into the routine jackpotting some, and then maybe middle of summer, if everything's good and we got the finals made, crack him out some. And then I was like, man, what's the best heel horse out there? And it was Turbo, and I've actually been on Pat about buying this horse for the last 5 years before Turbo was even really Turbo. He let me ride him, I think, 2019. My horse had colic surgery, and Pat offered me his 2 horses to ride at the winter rodeo, so I got to ride Turbo some, and I said, hey, if you ever want to part with that horse, I said, I want first shot, so that was our deal. And then Wesley got to ride the horse a bunch last year, rode him at the finals, won the world on him, so I really figured Wesley would have first shot, they buddied and the whole deal, so I never thought I would have a chance at him, but some time went by and I told Pat, I said, hey, I don't want the middle of y'all's deal, but if something happens and you make a decision, like you want to do something different, give me a call. Well, I guess about 3 weeks ago, he called me and said, hey, I'm getting close. I kind of want to do something. He said, I'm out of town. Just go pick Turbo up and ride him. So I got to just go get him, take him home.
Had you ever rode him before that?
I rode him back in 2019, just practicing. I never rode him anywhere. And Turbo, honestly, like I would say, back then he felt awesome, but back then he felt like almost too much horse for me.
He's always stayed real freewheeling, huh?
Mm-hmm. No,
when he locks on the horn, he gives the jerk. He don't take it, huh?
For sure. That horse is about as strong to the saddle horn as I've rode.
He keeps his shoulders up so good, and he pedals with his feet, it looks like during your delivery, where he doesn't take your throw away. Yeah. But when his front feet stop and lock,
no, it's over. And that's limping. Like my bay will kind of like pedal to a stop. Like he's not just going to drag his butt from here to there. Turbo does that. But what's been a little bit different on Turbo is he's so framed going down the arena that when the steer barely turns, like you see a shot and you can't help but want to just whip it down there. And it's like, guy needs to just get one more swing and you're going to finish faster than everybody else anyway. But he shows it to you so fast and it looks so easy. A guy wants to just throw fast every single time,
Man, I'm on your Facebook page right now, and I think, what is this right here? The American, you guys got qualified?
We didn't qualify. That was Tulsa. We won the
Tulsa
2-head average the first.
Now damn, I'm telling you, I can't believe that horse has only been roped on one a year. And I mean, just teeing him up for you to go first hop. Gosh, dog, it looks awesome. And then just annihilated the horns. And first hop, bam, done. Golly. Yeah. Man, your guys' run, I ain't kidding you, it looks tight this year. The confidence it looks like you have now after that first NFR looks amazing. I mean, your consistency throughout the year has just been awesome.
Mm-hmm. It feels good. When Clay and I started roping, I'm not going to lie, I thought I got Clay Smith, like this is going to be a walk in the park. Well, Clay Smith and guys that don't rodeo, it doesn't sound like a lot, but the way Clay heads, like, when he gets tapped off, he might turn 15 steers in a row for money. And when you're rodeoing, like, that's a bunch of steers. And so I saw holes in my roping. Yeah, at the end of the year, I was not happy with how I had done. So come home and made some changes, and now this is going on our 3rd year of roping together, and we've just kind of got some chemistry. I think my roping got better, and just having a rundown with the guy is very important.
What did you feel like you learned? What was it that you came back and tweaked on?
I would say my horsepower and my riding. Like that's what's funny is this bay, that's Coon. He won 2nd in the Horse of the Year deal behind Turbo. Is the first year Clay and I roped, when we were in the Northwest, I was having a mental breakdown. I'm like, that horse doesn't fit me. I want something different. I was trying to sell him. I had an older horse that I called Moonshine that was coming 19 years old, and I'm like, man, this horse is tired. But he was always my old faithful kind of. Well, I got home and sold Moonshine, and I had to just camp out on Coon. I'm like, I'll find something that fits me better. And then it didn't take long. We go and we win Fort Worth. We win Billy Bob's Bigger Open. We won 2nd at the BFI. And since I had nothing else to ride, I just kind of got with him,
Figured it out.
Yep.
That's the one thing about horsemanship sometimes is it's what I've found out when I retired was how much I didn't realize my left hand was getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
I studied Clay Smith for years, Driggers as well, Trevor Brazil, Chad Masters. Those guys were some of the best guys that could ride their horses and stay out of their way.
Mm-hmm.
And man, when I started figuring out some certain little techniques and things like that and was able to kind of emulate a little bit of what they were doing, and they were riding to and through their throw instead of around it. So, on the head side, like for me, I came a lot of right to left. So, you go from right to left. Well, then you go from that motion. Well, that sets your horse out to the left, so you don't take very long to start taking your horse throws away and things like that. And then, when I started learning how to try to go to the target, throw through the horns, everything was going straight. Then I could pull my slack. Then I could step out.
Mm-hmm.
Then my horses started working better. And it's like, man, the amount of fights that I got on my horses, because I was the one that was getting in their way. But I would think that, when you start getting go after go after go, the same goes after time, then it seems like you're able to get into a rhythm. And to me, that's when the tweaks can be made because you're developing a run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this style may have worked for some other ways of roping, but this is one of the elite assassins and killers of the industry that, okay, now he's consistently doing this. I continue to keep kind of getting over here, and then you're almost creating a mold, it seems like, where you're finding some little tweaks here and there, and okay, that one worked, that one worked. Then you can start feeling, to me, is like what now the upper guys are able to do.
Right.
It's one thing to be an elite healer, but you've got to have one of the elite headers that's going to make it a lot easier because they all match and they all mold, But and then they have to go through different horses. I've watched Speedy and Rich there for a long time, when he had Viper and Bob, they had that run down. Well, then as they got crippled and then throughout their career, then horses change. Well, then that throws a little of the timing for the healer off. So those constant adjustments that guys have to make, as a healer to where it's just a millisecond and it's just a tiny, but it can be one thing that can throw the style where you have to adjust, huh?
No, for sure. I actually just last week, I roped a leg on the first 2 steers at Houston, go to Mercedes, and Clay ducked one back fast, and I caught the steer. We won 5th, still a decent check, but I was just out of whack, and it was just the first time in a while. I'm like, what am I missing?
Was that when, so your horse that you were riding all winter with the bay, what's that one called?
Coon.
And so once you went to Coon, because you cracked out Patrick's horse at Houston, correct?
I rode him in 1 round at Houston.
1 round at Houston.
Yep.
And then did you ride him at Mercedes too?
No.
Okay.
I had to leave him back at Houston for Pat. Pat's going to ride him at Houston and Austin.
So Pat, he's slowing down, correct?
I think so, yep.
Yeah. But that's what I was wondering, what the adjustments are now.
He says so. He's about to mess around and have some money won, then he's going to have a decision to make.
That can happen, yeah, without a heel horse.
Yeah.
What do you feel like the adjustments are then, going from Coon then now to Turbo?
I would say, like Coon, I think Turbo is a better horse. He does a few things better. Turbo does than Coon, I'm saying. Turbo is more framed up through the turn. He's a little bit more elevated. Like I said, that's where the wanting to put your rope down at any time comes in. Turbo feels better to place your rope on. He's going to finish better than Coon. But also with Coon, like I know every move that he's going to make in every situation. So whenever we get done at Houston and stuff, I'm going to jackpot on turbo a little bit right here until we leave for the summer and just make runs on him, competing, like it sounds crazy, but I'll probably ride, like the other day, Ben Clements had the 200 a man go 3 times, and I rode turbo, which one day I probably won't do that to either one of those horses, but to me, the best way to get one with one is just making runs on them, and you can do all you want at home, but until you get somewhere and put money up, it's not the same.
I totally agree. Because that's when you find out when you're trying to rope for money.
No, for sure.
It seems like at home you can rope, but the money up is when you're going to find out.
That's when a lot of things from home go out the window.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, you're set up then. Is that the only 2 you got then, or do you got some other ones coming up?
I have 2 younger horses back home. This is kind of funny. Do you remember a couple years ago at your NFR Open, Vitor da Silva? He made the NFR Open with JC Flake.
Okay.
On the gray. He qualified through Decatur. Well, Vitor is working for us now, and he's riding all of our young horses. Well, I known Vitor for a month, and he said, "Hey, do you remember at Charlie Crawford's Open, made it with JC Flake?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That was me." So that was kind of funny. He just told me that the other day. But
that's awesome.
Vitor rides those horses like, I know I'm not the best. I'm not a horse trainer, and it feels like to me to stay as sharp as I can. I would rather run 20 a day quality than run 80 training, and I just don't feel as sharp when I'm riding the 4-year-olds every day.
It's a hard balance. It's a hard balance. I think there's some guys that have grown up doing it, have learned how to flip the switch.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I've seen a lot of people that start into it after they've already roped, and then it kind of takes a toll on your competition.
No, for
and that's
sure.
been everyone. I've seen everyone come up through the ranks. I've done it. I've seen Trevor do it. There's been all of us that, whether it's training or something that sidetracks you throughout the middle of your career. For me, I remember I made 3 NFRs. Then I wanted to take more time to develop my clinics. Then I started doing a lot more clinics and got to do a lot of them with some other healers, and then was trying to do clinics along with going to the rodeos when then I started feeling myself starting to get mechanical. I've seen a lot of guys too growing up, and then all of a sudden sponsors, and they started loading up on sponsors and stuff, after they make a few NFRs and stuff. Well, then they're getting pulled around to so many different places, having to sign and do all these other things. Well, it's taken away from their roping. So
there's a fine
there's always
line.
something.
There's a fine line right there, and that's one thing that I think my partner is good at, which they're getting into the young horse deal also, but separating your practices. Like when Clay and I are roping, we're making runs for ourselves, and then afterwards, I may not even be there anymore, and he'll go through all their younger ones, and that was something we said we wanted to do this year, that last year we didn't do it like we should. Like when we left Reno last year, we had 50 or 60,000, which is a lot leaving Reno, and in the summer was kind of we kind of lost our run for a little while, and we got it back. We snuck in there, like it worked out fine, but like this year we wanted to make it a priority again to get together and let's have some more full contact practices as a team, and he lives 2.5 hours away, so it's an all day deal, but I have seen the difference in our roping when we work at it together, and it's well worth it for sure.
Yeah. And especially, too, there's times I think to practice and tweak on a few things and mold it, but then, gosh dang, look at the opportunity. I mean, that's why everyone moves here to Stephenville areas, because this is where the assassins are at. The killers are all right here, and so there's somewhere to go 2, 3, 4 times a week. So there's nonstop being able to go test your run, rope for money, and come back and mold on it.
If you're honest with yourself about where you're at, you can find out real quick what you're lacking or doing right over here.
And then what was last weekend? I know the Ace Ashford Memorial was last week. I heard that was a great rope.
It was awesome. They
got
the steers were good. I think 36,000 added. A great roping. The night before they had a pro-am. I got to go down there and rope with my dad, and then that night they had a dinner and a silent auction for everybody. It was just a great time to see everybody for a great cause. I've grown up around them since me and Ross were in junior high, so they're family to us, and it's awesome that we can all gather and be there for them.
Yeah, that is awesome. What a terrible, tragic accident. But to be able to celebrate life, that's the great thing about our industry is we can celebrate life and have a good time doing it and remembering.
No, for sure.
Remembering what a great kid he was and a great family that it is. And that's the fun thing about being able to get everyone gathered up and have a roping.
For sure.
Have you seen, speaking of some young kids, have you been seeing this Catch Kelton?
I did see that.
Doing it.
Yep.
Gosh, dang, we're on the Team Roping Journal right now, and we're flipping through some of the pages. For one, lit their ass on fire and just pounded them over there at the cinch timed event.
Yeah.
Over a minute, just pounded them.
No,
and 100 seconds or so. I forget what it was, but it just pounded them. And then he goes over there at the Patriot, and a part of the $100,000, the cinch, or what is it right here? What roping was that? It was something. It was it's the Huey Junior Patriot bonus round.
I think that was a deal. They kind of set it up rodeo style, like two head, and then
looked
bring
like they
back.
put him like in almost an NFR setup, huh?
Run two head, maybe even in the other arena or something, and then come back for one header. But
that's cool. I love that where they kind of where they put them in that situation where you can qualify to it. Now here's what a little bit of the NFR feels like.
That's different. I like that because it's more. There's more setups like where those guys are headed. Those guys are going to have no problem doing what we're doing whenever they want to, or like little Michael when he's old enough. But I think it's good to get guys in those kind of setups. They bring top 12 back or top 15 back, and it's tight like that, or just a one hitter for good money.
So you talk about some young kids coming up. You got Tyler Tryon and Denton Dunning, who everyone's been watching them on the Cowboy Channel all throughout the year. We all know Tyler. He's a generation coming up from the Clay Tryon family. And, Nicky Northcott, son of world champion Steve Northcott, he's another one that's an up and coming. This Denton Dunning's been making a hell of a name for himself as well. So it looks like the bonus round, it looks like Tyler Tryon and Denton Dunning came out with a 3.5. And then Catch Kelton and Dunning go 3.26. And then it looks like Kelton and little Michael Camelot was behind that, and they had to be a 3.25, and they were 3.25.
Yeah, that's doing it.
Y'all want to go ahead and go to some junior events?
That is doing it.
And we're watching it right here. There was no rules. There was no holds barred right here. Now, there was a neck rope and a barrier and a stop clock. Other than that, they let these kids rope.
It's rope the cow as fast as you can. And I've seen the comments. We were just talking about this a minute ago. Everyone on Facebook throwing the box and crossfire, and it was. But I don't care what anybody says. Anytime you're 3-2, if they let you put it on the chute, 3.2 is fast. That's pretty impressive, and there's no rules, so why not take those throws? You're trying to win it. If you don't, somebody else is going to.
Exactly right. And to me, all it does now is let these kids play and go. I mean, they're literally goat roping right there. It looks like it looks like they're goat roping on a horse. But like Catch Kelton has been, he's a cowboy from Arizona. His dad was a hell of a cowboy. His great granddad or his grandpa's a hell of a cowboy. So he comes from a cowboy ranching family. And seeing him at the timed event, just be able to, on that yellow horse, just go up and be as consistent as can be. I remember growing up, I remember watching him grow up and healing on the sorrel. He always healed good. But now you're watching him come over the chute. He can do that too.
No,
these are some over the chute shots.
I roped with him in Arizona a little bit, and I was like, "What are you doing? Like, do you not really want a rodeo yet?" Because I'm a fan. Like, I think he's ready. He's super talented. He's a good jackpotter. Like, he can catch when all the pressure's on. He said, man, maybe next year. I don't want to get some more head horses, which it is good, but he's not worried. I mean, maybe he doesn't even know how good he is, but I think he could go today if he wanted to.
Well, I think that's where, and I'm just guessing and speculating, but I know Chance. Chance knows how to rodeo. He was a winner. He was a sticker. He had good horses. He knows what the road's like. So there's probably some pretty good guidance going on would be my opinion of like, yeah, you got it, but like, here's what you're probably going to need in order to feel like you're going to be ready. And there's no hurry. That's the one thing about rodeoing. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there, you know, from one year to the next. And so I would say that Chance is going to know what you're going to need to be able to be out there and be successful. And one of them is going to be for sure head horses because the talent's
Well,
there.
and doing that, whenever he does crack out, he is going to be set up for a long period of time. Not a guy that's setting himself up like, man, this guy sticks, but he loses that horse and you never hear of him again, you know?
There's been a lot of
and I think that's what it sounds like they're after.
Yeah, which is smart. That's good strategy. I'd tell you what was, speaking of strategy, is Dustin, he was on the podcast to Squeeze a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about that new horse that he got, that Bay. I think he's 7 this year. And I think he got him from South Texas. I can't remember for sure where he got him from down there, but he looks amazing. And I'm watching, you were up there in his set over there at Houston, and where I'm used to watching him on them steers trying to be 3 and probably set the arena record in the round 1, running all the way up in there and just freaking putting some heat on them heads and using his horse.
Yeah.
When I got done watching all 3 of those, I think that he placed on all 3, didn't he? Won the semi, won the set.
So, yeah.
I think and he didn't drop a coil.
Yeah.
He ran all the way up there and just freaking annihilated the horns and posted them up. And his man healed. And when he roped all 3 of those and never dropped a coil, I was thinking of Happy Gilmore. When he looked up at Shooter McGavin, he goes, Happy learned how to putt. And I'm like, this dude now's learning how to get some short
like
game.
A game-changing head horse, which Dustin's been awesome everywhere. I mean, he's one of the best no matter what you put him, but you give him a head horse like that when he needs
He Charles poked them bitches and run up there and just, you know, short to mid-5s. Yeah. I'm like, that could be what could, because he gets that down. Holy shit. So that was cool. I was excited for him because I texted him and he's like, dude, I've never had a horse like this. Dude. Never knew what this felt like.
That's going to be a game-changing horse for him for sure.
Well, I'm watching you and Clay, and I think it's going to be a cool title bout because both of you guys are right there going into the short round at Houston. So I think your guys' run and what he's doing it could be some of them title bouts that could be fun to watch going throughout the year. So that's exciting. Have you guys seen some of the stuff that a lot of them are talking about? Kendra Santos came out with a Facebook post the other day talking about Calgary. So it's pretty exciting because, I mean, my household's full of breakaway ropers, so it's pretty exciting that breakaway is going to Calgary, into the perfs, got the money added. It's going to be just like every other event. But what about the team roping? Has any of the guys been talking about what in the heck is what is the reason for team roping getting those same look?
I haven't read into it very much. I've heard a little bit. I don't know what the holdup is, but I'll be honest, like Calgary is a good rodeo. I mean, for us, if you win it, it pays $12,500 a man, I think. But there's one guy that leaves there really happy, and you have to go to Canada. You know, there's a lot to it. And I went
there's
one
a lot
time.
Of expense to get
there. And usually it's a deal where maybe you're sending a rig, or there's a lot that goes into it to go up there, and you can do okay and not win it and win $2,200, and it's like, man, that don't make sense, you know. And so since
Calgary counts for the PRCA,
yep,
and all the events,
yep.
So it doesn't sound like there's much representation then from the PRCA to give what is their core card holders, which is a team roping.
Yep.
The team roping doubles every other event. If you guys read Kendra Santos' post the other day on Facebook, she's got the stats there. There's not a membership stronger than team roping. So we have an association that's not standing with their strongest events to be able to get into the rodeos. What it kind of sounds like to me.
There should be some backbone there, like not let Calgary just make the rules on the deal. Hey, if y'all want our rodeo, well, let's make something work for these guys, you know, because it's getting to where, like Clay and I talk, we might go to Pinoca this year, and I'm not saying we're out on Calgary. We'll see how things are going by then, but we haven't entered Calgary the last 2 or 3 years just because it's like, man, that's not right. They want to do that, and they want the best guys in the world to show up, and I've been there one time.
Roping not even a quarter of the money.
Mm-hmm. I've been there one time, and they still have fans show up to that little arena over there. Like people, it's just say a hole in the wall right there, and people still show up to watch. And so that's letting them think, all right, we're getting them. That's good enough. So we haven't gone the last couple of years. I hope we have the option to not go again this year too, unless they bring some better money to the table.
What do you think the segregation, or what do you think the reason that they just don't want to have team roping up there in the purse and add equal money just like the rest of the events? What do you think the discrimination is? I
honestly have no clue. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I know Rocky Dallon's been up there trying his ass off to get things done. The generation that before me has been trying their butt off to get them in their finals that they have up there, the Canadian finals, and be able to get them into Calgary. And just the amount of just resistance from everywhere. And they've got guys, they've always had guys up there that'll add the money. They have the money. The money they've always said is there, but for whatever reason, Calgary just doesn't, for some discriminatory reason, they don't like team roping, and they don't like team ropers for whatever reason, which I don't know the politics of it and why. I think a lot of them now don't like it because people before them didn't like it. So I think they don't like it, but they don't know why. Right. Because if you want to try to tell me that it's not a ranch event, at one point in time, how many times did a guy run out there to go doctor a cow and said, hey, why don't you haze this steer for me while I jump off and throw it down? No, you run up there and you head and heel it. So, I mean, bronc riding's a cowboy event. Team roping's a cowboy event. The calf roping, I mean, that's obviously how you doctored calves as well. I mean, when it comes to a cowboy event that came from our tradition, team roping is right there with how you doctor cattle. So I don't get it and understand it. I've heard so many guys on the bronc riding side that have been against it for so long, from generations back. How it's still not there is beyond me.
Yeah, and it could be done. That's the thing. It
the money's there. Exactly,
it costs a lot of money to do what we do, so why not better everything? And things are getting better. There's more and more rodeos popping up that are like I just heard they're having one in Nashville that's adding $25,000 a side at the end of May, maybe. Calgary, same. Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, I did hear about that one.
So stuff like that's cool. But if a guy has a chance to go win $50,000 for what it takes for us to do this, at the end of our year, big licks like that is really where we get ahead besides just the NFR, So I don't know why they would not want to help better the sport of team roping and to where a guy can make a better living doing it also.
Well, I know that's got to be probably one of their biggest card members up there in Canada as well.
For sure.
Fans are there. I mean, team roping's been something around. I mean, that's like our golf of the industry. When people get done roping and they still want to compete, team roping is where they go. There's no gender. There's no age limit. There's plenty of handicaps where you can rope in your bracket of your skill level. So I can't remember. I heard that it was somewhere around maybe a $500 million a year industry impact in our industry. I mean, it's that big. Now, don't quote me exactly. I'm texting some of the people that keep track of this to make sure if it's 500 million or not. But it is a huge, what makes money in this industry is a big impact when it comes down to what makes money. And so to not support it, when you have something bringing in that kind of money, that event is that strong that keeps this industry going. But then to tell it and give it the middle finger when it comes to putting it in your rodeo, to me, I don't get it. I struggle with that.
Why even have the team roping period?
Right.
If it can't be.
Yeah. And what a slap in the face. You're not going to be here. We're going to throw you a quarter of the money, but we'll let you rope over here for you guys' little trinkets. I mean, to me, it's wild what they're doing, and I don't get it. And I'm surprised there hasn't been more conversation about it. But I will say one thing: you guys are so dang busy team roping that I get it. Where it's you've got enough stuff to go to, and there's enough things to worry about. Where it's not.
Well, and honestly, I don't look into that stuff and know that my opinion's not worth a whole lot anyway. What I think about it isn't going to change what happens. So I kind of stay out of it, and I do hope that eventually they get it lined out and we can go have a chance at the 50,000.
And it's not like we're adding for anything more than just equal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
For
all
sure.
we want to do is it'd be the same. It's not like we're asking for special treatment on anything, and it's not hard to find steers.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
They can make that happen.
You've got the money and you got the steers, so it doesn't make no sense to me. But I am happy with the breakaways getting there.
Yeah.
That's a big win for the breakaway, because now the breakaway, they're going through the same problem now, trying to get to the NFR. So the team roping and breakaway have both been on the same paths. For whatever reason, the team roping has taken so long to get there. It's finally getting there, but for whatever reason, Calgary's still kind of having their issues up there. But then the breakaway, they're having, that's a good win for them. But now it's going to be interesting to see where it goes now from here on, being able to get in the Thomas and Mack, because that's so hard, I think, for a lot of the fans. The fans watch the Cowboy Channel all year long, and you're watching the breakaway at Fort Worth and San Antonio and Houston and Austin and all throughout all the California spring rodeos, all the big rodeos from Reno to.
They assume it's part of the rodeo.
They assume it's part of they even say, hell, Wrangler's got, one of the girls right there on being a cowgirl, and the singer, I forget her name. She used to have some decent hips on her. She was in Yellowstone. Forgot her name. Lainey Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got her on there promoting cowgirls. And then when it comes down to the NFR, like, no, you girls go over here.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. It's one thing about the industry. Sometimes it gets pretty frustrating.
This may be a stupid question. I haven't been to the actual arena in Calgary. Can you team rope in it? I heard it was like a little lane.
Well, we rope it. We rope it at Cheyenne, so I figured, you know what I mean?
Well,
like
for $50,000, we'll make it work one way or the other.
I bet it can't be no harder than the NFR. You just shorten up the barrier enough. I bet you guys will figure out how to make it work. That's for sure.
That would be fun.
Well, I mean, no disrespect to the rodeo. The rodeo at Calgary, everybody, I talked to Bobby Moat when he was going up there all the time when we were buddied, when he was team roping and riding bareback horses. And he talked about the rodeo. The rodeo is amazing. I think one year they zip lined in there, maybe even parachuted in there, like the contestants. I forget what all they did, but it's an amazing rodeo.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal up there.
I remember whenever we went, the rodeo was going on, and our deal's right across the street for the team roping, but it seemed like for 2 miles you would see people walking down the sidewalk that was headed to the rodeo. One of the biggest functions that I've seen from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I've heard just amazing, truly amazing. But I've never got to go there. I got qualified up there for the deal that they had when I retired. They were going to have the rodeo like what you guys have. That was going to first year they're going to do it, but then COVID hit.
Gotcha.
And then that's when everything kind of got abolished up everywhere. But yeah, so I've never been there. I've been up there rodeoing. Some of the greatest guys up there. I love Canadians, man. They're so much fun. I've done clinics up there and rodeoed up there, and man, they're a good, fun-loving group of guys, man.
Yep. I've only been one time. I didn't even spend a night up there. We drove up there, roped at Calgary, and right back.
Yeah. To go hang out with the guys up there that rope, man, they're a good group of guys. I mean, it sucks that they haven't quite got the opportunities up there that they should.
Right.
But yeah, I'll be curious to kind of see what starts transpiring on that event. But so where are you from? I think you're like a lot of us. We all live in Stephenville, but none of us are from here. Where did you originate from?
I grew up about 45 minutes east of Dallas in Kemp. Growing up, my dad always roped, jackpotted. He was a good businessman, so either early in the morning before he went to work or late at night when he got home, he would turn me steers. I would usually try to have everything ready and get some practice in, and then I guess I left home. I was 16 or 17 years old and said, I'm coming to Stephenville. Like T-Wade lives probably 40 minutes from where I grew up. They used to have ropings. I think they still do once a week over there. But other than that, Lightning lives about 30 minutes from me. But it's like, I want to get away, I can get some better practice away from home. And I packed up and left, and I started renting a place in Stephenville, and since then, like, it's taken me some time. It wasn't like I thought I was, and I had a hard lesson to learn, but I thought I'd turn 18 years old, like I'm going to the NFR, and it's taken me some time. I'm 26 now, but everything I've done like that now is paying off, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Kind of the journey it's been for me. It's kind of been a grind, but now to see the other side of it, it's worth all the sacrifices we make to get here.
Well, I remember when you were coming up to the junior events and the high school events, like you were the guy coming up. You were the highest numbered guy. You were the kid that was winning all the jackpots. Had some good horses.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think that, when you first got started, for one, you said your dad roped.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how you got into roping.
Uh-huh.
So who did some of the guys you looked up to? Who are some of the guys you got to rope with that they kind of got you to where you were able to be kind of ahead of a lot of the guys that you were around in your age bracket?
So my dad's he just got his first card the other day. In 10 years we got him a 4+, but he was a 5-header. Rope good, was a good catcher, but always had an eye for good horses. Well, in the junior rodeos, I used to rope calves, goat tie, head, heel, the whole deal, and kind of made a decision like I want to be a healer. This is what I want to do. Sold my calf horse. I was going to Speedy's, and we met Archie Rogers over there, and I had no idea that my dad had even seen this, but my dad told Archie, he said, I saw you at Fort Worth. You were riding like a little chestnut heel horse. And Archie said, well, I'm starting ahead, so he's about to be for sale. So back then it was for a lot of money. That was like our first big step. My dad bought me that horse, and that horse kind of helped teach me how to catch 2 feet. Well, we become close with Archie, and it didn't take long. He was living with us back home. So my practice changed a lot right there, because he was just getting into the heading deal, but he headed good, but he was still learning himself. We would back in there and go at 60, 80, 100 steers a day, full contact. So it was like something I'd never seen before. And
that had to be fun.
No, it was fun. It
goodness.
was fun. And it might have been a fight for a little while, because like I said, there'd be times I was nowhere in the picture. I'm like, slow down. But it took time, and nowadays I'm not going to back in there and go at 80 in a row. Nowadays, I've learned different ways around keeping my good horses working. Like now I might run 4 on my good horse and go kind of slow and quit him, and if I don't at the moment, but if I've got some horses around to put runs on, I'll run 10 or 15 on them. And now it's more maintaining, keeping the horses feeling good and making sure my roping's sharp. But back then there was a time for a couple years right there that it was a grind.
I think there's some times where just going at them, even though you might run, I think that, in my opinion, that's where practice horses, I think, come in. Because I think you learn so much on what not to do and what to do, and you kind of start getting a mold a little bit. I think the jackpots, though, now also are kind of the same way. There's so many ways where you can just keep getting those reps and finding out how to be able to perform at that high level at that speed. And
the days are over. The days are over. Like, hey, Ben Clements is having a little opener open in Stephenville. Especially for me personally, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm going to take the 4-year-old up here and just go knock them down and maybe win something. You better be all hands on deck just at the little roping down the road nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many of them coming up. Like I said, we were watching Catch Kelton. Yep. There's an age bracket now that's coming up under them
But I think that helps keep guys sharp.
And there's so many of them. There's so many ropers here. Who was some of the people you looked up to? Who were some of the healers you looked up to growing up, and how did you try to emulate like what they did?
I would say so. Speedy was kind of the first person I went to. He helped me a lot, like horsemanship wise. Like I knew nothing, and we really didn't know a whole lot about it. So Speedy was like the first guy, and then I kind of veered off. I got to spend some time with Alan and Joel Bach quite a bit growing up. Like, I thought Joel Bach was the man. And they had a very simple way of explaining healing. They didn't try to do anything crazy. It was a good swing and getting time with the cow and a good loop, and so I would go stay over there for a week at a time, and I feel like they kind of helped me learn how to catch the steers, and that changes. Is Al living in Hawaii now? I saw Joel in Arizona for the first time in a
He
while.
was out there. I texted him the other day. I know he's in Arizona, so I don't know if he's back and forth. I'm not real sure. I've been wanting to get him on the podcast because he's one of the Godfathers.
That would be
Leo
cool.
Camarillo. Want to get him on really want to get him on. I think he's out in Arizona. He said he won't be out in Texas for a little bit, but so I'm betting he's probably between Arizona, Hawaii, and probably things like that doing clinics.
But they helped me a lot growing up. Nowadays, within the last few years, I talked to Rich quite a bit, and Rich, same deal. He keeps it pretty simple. You know, like there's nothing worse than middle of the summer and a guy's kind of having hell and somebody throws something way over your head and you're like, man, you know, Rich is pretty good about keeping it simple. Hey, you're doing this with your riding or something small and roll on. Don't make a big deal about it. I got to buddy with when Lightning and I wrote, we buddied with Tanner and Patrick. I think Tanner's first year to made it. So Pat's great businessman, knows how to enter, knows how to get around, knows plenty of people. You know, I got to buddy with Travis Graves some. I've been around a few of the older guys that kind of helped me from being the kid that didn't know anything to where I could learn stuff from them along the way and kind of mold it into my own style, you know.
With the technology that they have nowadays, is there's some guys that you studied, you know, watching the videos, watching their social media, watching the Cowboy Channel, you know, all the runs you're able to watch now. You know, we didn't have access to that then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the runs that you guys make throughout the year that are just highlight reels on ESPN, you know, which should be, you know, we had to hear about them, you know, so you guys were able to see so many runs. Is there anybody that you've kind of watched and studied and tried to emulate?
I'm pretty big. Like, I think everyone has their own style. You know, like, I think the worst thing you can do is compare yourself to other people. But there's things that some people do, you know, that are just winners. Like, what are they doing to maintain it at the top as good as they can? Because in this game, there are a lot of highs and there are a lot of lows, you know, and like, as I've gotten a little bit older, I haven't perfected it, but I've got better at finding the balance, you know. But Wesley, for example, no matter what day it is and he shows up, like, you're going to have a hard time getting around him. You know, it doesn't matter if you're jackpot and rodeoing the guy. He's just a winner, you know. I think guys like that are, I don't know what's going on differently than others that are, you might see them hit a lick and you might not hear their name again for a few months. I think that's because whenever they do good, they still go home and they're keeping their horses working, their roping stays sharp, and there's a difference when a guy's all in doing this, and I think you have to be.
Yeah, he's one of them.
No, for sure.
I really think he's one of the Clay Coopers right now of our day because, you know, whatever the steer does, he just reacts to. You know, when T-Wade freaking comes and hooks and gets horns and is tight, you're going to see the first hop.
No,
you might see it.
People know how good he is, but I said not too long ago, like, it's a little bit, I'm not saying it wasn't tough back in the day, but in today's time, like, it seemed like back in the day, there might have been one or two, like, standalone teams, you know, that if the guy had those two head horses sound and the healer had those horses, you know, like they would separate from the pack. Well, now there's T-Wade, Dustin, Jergers, Clay Smith, Coleman, you know, like there's a handful of guys that it's a knife fight, and to win 2 gold buckles back to back, and this time is pretty impressive.
Real impressive. Totally agree. Yep. Yeah, I just love how diverse his roping is.
Yeah.
You know, like say when they hook tight and they clean up, right there. You know, T-Wade comes fast and gets a deep brisket around the shoulders, and it might take a little bit for that steer to hit. He reads that too and gets ahead of that. Knows when to hold him, knows when to fold him, and yeah, he's been really good. I think for a lot of people to watch because, like you say, the winner. He's just a winner. I think that you're exactly right on the amount of teams out there that are there, that the ones that continue to keep shining, and then the ones that kind of hit and miss. And you know, I think that's where it's so good for what season you're in and you're roping to be able to have that quarterback that knows the plays. He knows the defense. He knows the reads. He's got the head horses. He knows the rodeos. He knows how to hit the line. He knows where his rodeos are at, what to use, he's just such a winner. And to be able to have that to help get molded as a young roper.
Oh, for sure.
To me, that's the route to take.
Yeah, for sure.
When you were roping as a young kid, what line of ropes did you always use? And how did you like them tied? And have you found something that you've changed a little bit from when you were young to where you're at now with maybe some of the tweaks in your roping at all?
I guess when I was younger, it's funny because every now and then videos will pop up like state finals and stuff. Like I used the GT4s. Like back then I was probably using a medium, a little bit softer rope, but I've never been one to get anything crazy done to my ropes. Like I'll have George when it warms up, maybe a little bit of backswing just so when you stretch them, they're still pretty straight. And then I veered off. I went Powerline for a little while, NV4 for a couple years, and now I guess the last couple years I've been back GT4 where it all started. But I don't do anything too crazy rope-wise. I order a GT4 light hard medium, and that's about it.
Well, I think for me, what I really enjoy having the conversation with you on is because I remember when you were a young kid, when I was living with Chad and you were coming over and roping, you were a little kid, but you healed really good. And so there's a lot of young kids coming up that to me, it's hard for them to get those swings going on a lot of those heel ropes because they're not strong yet. They haven't fully developed yet. So it's kind of fun having you on the podcast to talk about the lays of ropes that you use because you were one of the guys, from the junior events, but you were still a small kid.
No, for
and
sure.
then you're not the beast you are now, obviously. But I like that you could heal good, but, not having the strength of, say a Paul Eves.
Yep.
The lays are going to have to change until a guy gets developed.
For sure. I'm pretty big on that, and I kind of learned the hard way. It seemed like whenever honestly, it's something I got it's not perfect, but gotten better the last handful of years is using probably too stiff of a rope at a young age. Like it would pull it in front of my face, like I was almost handcuffed. And to heal like a grown man, you can't be handcuffed whenever they duck a big Mexican back in front of you. You gotta have stuff open. So like, now, even today, I'm roping my pipes on the ground, my smart. I don't skip any steps. That's small things that I keep in mind, making sure that I'm open, a good swing where I like it, and try to translate that into steers.
What was some of the tools you used as you were learning how to heal? What machines did you use? Did you rope goats? What were some of the things that helped with your healing?
Growing up, I roped a goat on a stake quite a bit. I've always been a Smarty fan, and like I said, Albach, keeping it simple. Like I never understood, well, he doesn't hop. That's not realistic. And to me personally, they cannot make a machine that hops as realistic as a steer. And Al told me one day, he said, this dummy is to build timing with your horse, which puts you with the cow. And once I got that feel, it made perfect sense to me, because if you're not with your horse, it don't matter what the steer's doing, odds are you're not going to catch, So it helps build some horsemanship into it while you're on the dummy and you're controlled. And then before you go, it's harder to fix or try to work on something when you're going wide open on steers. You can get somebody on that four-wheeler and you can go as slow as you want to go and kind of mold that in and get it where you like it and say, all right, now let's step it up to steers and see how it feels.
Yeah, because you can get some directional control. If you want to keep going down the pin and help your horse right there and keep from cutting out, you can do that. You can control the speed. You can control the direction. You can control, okay, now I need a nice, smooth, easy corner because my horse is wanting to cut in or he's wanting to drop. He's wanting to, I need him to smoothen out. So there's so many tools you can use. But one of the things that I would love to be able to talk to you about, if you can articulate it, because it's very hard to articulate, when you're talking about getting your horse in time with the steer, because that's one thing I think so many people I've watched, and I've had them come over here and heel and stuff. And for me, even, it's real easy for me to swing and stride my horse. That's a feel. You got to get that developed to where when you're swinging, your horse is able to kind of go forward where you're ahead of the stop. There's some timing where you can swing in time with your horse and come in and heel that sled. But I've struggled even on that dummy too, is like being able to now how, because that's one thing I've always noticed about Joseph and Paul Eves, how good they can get their horse in time with the steer. So what was some of the tricks or some of the things that you felt like that was able to help you get your horse in time with the steer, even on the Smarty Extreme, where you can get with the timing with your horse and get with the steer?
I think, which is pretty simple, but something I caught on to later on is like, you can pattern your horses on the dummy from the get-go if you're wanting to work on coming out of the box, getting your left lead, a solid left lead foundation on your horse, and that does not happen every time. Every run can't be perfect, but from there you can build and you can keep your horse up in the bridle and around the cow. If you're swapping leads and you're not in the right spot, your horse is going to have a hard time making the same moves every time. And to me, good heeling should be pretty smooth. Like there's times that maybe a header misses his dally. Things get wild. And if your stuff is right and you're practicing the right way and you're confident and your horse is on point, you've got way better odds at catching that one wild steer than if you have no foundation and you're just freestyling. So, like just yesterday, the wind was blowing and I didn't have a header around, so I roped the Smarty. And same thing, I'm going pretty slow. Just I got done and I had confidence in my horse and my rope and everything felt correct and ready to go back to Houston.
So how did you feel like you was able, because you talked about Al, being able to get your horse in time with the steer. What was some things that you felt like you was able to mold your horse with that hop? Like just for like a beginner or like, because I've seen so many guys that like say they can heel the dummy good or they can get in time with the steer good, but then to try to get the two to match, where you're able to get your horse in time with that. Was there some things that you felt or some things that you remember, or is it kind of just off feel?
It's off feel, and honestly, I would say what helped me learn that feel was some special horses that had that built into them, and I got to feel like, hey, I like that. So now when I try horses or whatever, I'm like, that's something, does this feel good? Because there's some really nice horses, and some of them will fit you and some won't. Some will cut it off a little sooner than you like, or some they're a little bit delayed right there. And there's, to me, the heel horse timing comes a lot into play when it comes to putting your rope down. Like I'm a guy, like I like to get a swing over the steer's back. Some horses might be too free to that right there. Like I like to get a little bit closer than some people, I feel like. So there's a fine line when it comes to timing right there of what's going to stay with you, let you get a swing over their back, but also when you put it down, let you have the time to place a good loop and also get a good finish.
I went and heeled with Paul Lees a few years ago, and I got some of my fraternity horses out of the head side. I just wanted to go heel, and that was one of the things that I was really trying to work on, was being able to try to get my horse in time with that steer. And because that's what I noticed about what Joseph and Paul do so well, because when I go rope with them, I could just tell like they were, they got such good feel and such good hands. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was like when, Paul was telling me the head horse makes the heel horse. So what the head horse does is going to allow him to be able to basically check when that header runs up there and sets that steer and shapes that steer up, is when Paul said he was able to get up there and then collect his horse, and then they were all in the same time and the same hop. And I know that's out there, but it was amazing when he showed me like I've been able to set it up on the head side. I just never knew how they set it up on the heel side.
No, for sure. I remember whenever I was younger, I bought a heel horse from Sean Grant, and he was with Dean Tufton at the time, and I got to spend a few days around there and just seeing, like, Sean was awesome with heel horses, still is, but he would have someone put it on in the chute on little open muleys all day long, and he would get 30 feet out in front of the box, and they would stop. That way he could gather his horse up, push the calf around, and then restart, and that really builds a foundation into them horses as not skipping any steps, so you've got something to work with when you do step up and making live runs. I like a heel horse head to the left a little bit, strong in the left lead, and I don't mind one being a little bit strong, but there's a right kind of strong, like not hiding your face, but with you the whole time, because there's situations we get in rodeo that not everything can be perfect. You guys got to be able to pull on a horse a little bit or suck to the inside when you need to, or pick up and go back around, and it's getting harder and harder to find a truly finished horse that no matter the situation, the horse has seen it and going to respond to it.
This episode is brought to you by Corvive. Corvive has a great line of products that I believe in and use every day. Their product Hydrate isn't just for quenching your thirst. It's packed with vitamin C and zinc to give your immune system a little extra boost, especially in this Texas heat. I don't do a clinic, podcast, or a pre-workout without their product Energy. It keeps me locked in, it's convenient, effective, and it tastes great. Jackie and I drink it all the time. I drink it before I compete, and it's really good for those all-night drives. I don't have a post-workout without their protein. It's grass-fed, packed with collagen, peptides, amino acids, and has no chalky aftertaste. It's a great meal replacement or a way to rebuild after a hard workout. Core Renew covers all your gut health needs in just a single daily serving. New customers get 10% off their order by going to corevive.com/Crawford. See the podcast description for the link or check the link in my bio on all my social media channels. It was fun last year. I got to go rope with Joseph before one of the fraternities, and we got to rope all day, and just watching him just be able to put them horses' feet where he wants, is he able to keep the rope control. I mean, just an artist when it comes to
he's the man.
Unbelievable feel and technique that he's able to use. Well, we were on a podcast, and so I was talking to him, a lot about the head and, being able to make sure that your hands and feet, your left hand and feet have to be developed. That is one half of, being able to be a successful roper. First you got to be able to catch. You got to know how the rope works. You got to develop that right handle. Then after that, then you got to be able to develop the left hand and feet. The left hand and feet have to learn how to work together. So if the horse moves out a little bit, the hand picks him up, pushes him back into your hand. If your horse is flattening out, your left hand can pick him up. Your feet can drive him back up to where you push him back up into your hands, kind of like what you're talking about on the heel side.
Yep.
And then we were kind of talking about that, and he goes, yeah, that's right, Chuck. He goes, but he says, once you get your left hand and feet developed and they can work together, then they got to match the horse's feet. Then your left hand and feet now have got to work with the horse's feet. And it was true because, you talk about a guy that is able to know where the feet and where to put them, because that is such a huge part on them young horses, 3 and 4 year old when he's starting to get them, to be able, that's what he's talking about, is being able, now how do you match them horses' feet where you can see where the steer's feet are, where the timing is there. And you talk about like adding letters, you know what I mean? But it was so cool.
That's what's cool
to
about
see
what we
he
do
could
is
see.
We can always learn, and Joseph, I will say that he can go compete on those younger horses. I know I'm not that guy. Joseph can show up and still take your money on a 4 or 5 year old.
He can season a green horse and rodeo at the same time.
He's the man.
Kind of like Clay Smith.
Yeah,
Clay can do the same thing on the head side. Trevor Brazil, I've seen a lot of times do on the head side. But Trevor can do, or with Joe, he can do on the heel side too. It's fun to watch, man. And I'm telling you, those,
and it looks cool too.
He can.
It's not by accident.
Yeah, he's got the show down. He's got it. It's fun to watch with those fraternity guys. I think of them as artists, man. I think what they can do, their training techniques and the studying that they've done in the field, they've done in the hours that they put in to be able to learn how to develop that. It's been fun to watch. That's what I've been enjoying so much about the fraternities is learning how they're doing that, because it's doing a good job, I think, of getting those good horses out there, good bred horses out there that are able to, you're going to start seeing a lot of them, I think, at the NFR. Because they're getting put at the right spots at the right times, and they're molded so much. That head horse, I think of that Cody Snow's got, that came from Billy Jack.
Yeah,
I love that horse. That horse looks
that horse has done
through the fraternities.
Horse has done good.
I know there's been a few heel horses that came out.
One of my favorites is the one Hunter rides, Crypto, that him and JD McGuire have, and that's hard. It doesn't matter how nice of a 6-year-old you have, like. It takes a pretty special horse to just load up and go rodeo for a year and still keep it all pretty put together, you know, and Hunter's is one that stands out to me is like, hey, that's pretty finished product right there. Like he rode that horse a lot last summer. It wasn't like after the 4th of July, I had to send him home, and that horse stayed true to it.
And he's been able to keep some guys around him too, with him and JD, keeping them back put together. But he's really stepped his horsemanship up by trying to go to the fraternities and try to help learn how to put them horses in the right spot. Because there's going to be times, even as a 6-year-old, you're going to have to put them back together.
Oh, for sure.
So there's going to be a few practice sessions that you're able to get back and kind of put them back together and get them ready for that next rodeo. So he's learning how to do a lot of that stuff, which has really grown his horsemanship a bunch. And I've always thought of there's always kind of a horse rider chart that I've always kind of thought of. The more experienced the rider, the greener the horse you can ride.
Yeah.
And the greener rider, the more experienced a horse needs to be, because they've got to offset each other. It's got to kind of come in the middle. But when you're talking about at that high level, there's got to be a horse that knows how to do his jobs because you've got to be able to heel.
No, for sure.
You've got to be able to crawl out over them suckers
Mhm.
when you need to, and that horse has got to be able to run it back up under you because there's times where you got to win something.
Mhm.
The horsemanship or the riding sometimes has to be second
Yeah.
because you've got to pull the shot off.
Yeah, if you run smooth by 4 or 5 in a row for good money, that one of those elite headers up there that's doing it on a sure enough good horse, and you're like, hey, hold on, like I got to get this horse season. It doesn't work that way.
Not at the top level. Huh?
Not at the top, So a horse to be that young and trust. I mean, he rode him at the NFR. The horse was unbelievable.
Yeah. What is some of the qualities that you look for? Like when you're looking for a heel horse, what are the qualities you're looking for, and what do you feel like it fits your style?
I think foot speed is one of the most important things. I think a quick-footed horse gives you some natural power. Like, I think rope speed is pretty important, but I think it has to be pretty smooth. Like nothing can be a force. When stuff feels right, it should feel pretty natural and easy. I think foot speed is good for your rope speed, and it almost helps you feel like not every time it's going to happen, but a quick-footed horse 9 times out of 10 is going to put you in good timing with the steer. I like a horse with good foot speed. I like a horse to be elevated. One needs to be out of your way, in my opinion, which my bay coon, he's not as head tucked inside as like Turbo, but the horse is out of your way at all times. Like he's never just going to get stiff and stick his nose in your way where you can't see the cow. I think things like that are super important. Nowadays, it seems like when I'm trying to horse, something I look for is, especially behind my partners, these good opens. Like Clay scores. One thing Clay does is like he will ding the barrier. People, how did he get out? He rings the barrier out a lot, and his head horses can fly. So it's almost just as important for me over there to have a heel horse that's kind of pulling on you a little bit, and I can see a start like I would a header. And when the gates bang, you're rolling. I think those are some qualities for a really good heel horse that they've got to have. Speed, they've got to be able to get down the arena.
That's what it seems like I've seen, to where sometimes the heel horse that can't run much, the heelers are trying to get such a good start so they don't get left behind.
Yeah.
And then the problem with that is then you end up shoving them before you need
and
to.
And you're always chasing. And that's something that I've just haven't perfected yet, but
chasing's hard.
I've worked on it the last couple of years because I felt like my first year with Clay, like I was chasing a little bit, like I wasn't keeping up with the run very good.
So who was some of the guys you first started with, or, 2017 is when you first got your card?
Yep.
Is that correct? And so, it took you a little bit to kind of get there, not in a bad way, but I mean, because you're only 26 years old. But what I'm getting at is like when you first started getting out here and you first started rodeoing, it's always one thing to dream about it and watch the NFR and see the guys going down the road. But when you got out there, what was it like? And what did you feel like surprised you? You know what I mean? Like when you get out there, because everything is all sunshine and rainbows, right? Everything is going to be awesome. You get to see the country, you get to do all this stuff. And then when you get out there, like, gosh, dang, I didn't know I didn't know someone was like this. So what was it like when you first got out there? And what are some of the things that like kind of opened your eyes a little bit?
I would say like there's a lot more that goes into being successful at this than just roping good. Taking care of business the right way and being all in. I think you have to be all in, and it took me some time maintaining my horses, taking care of business the way it needs to be, and going out there with a purpose of winning is why I'm out here. I'm not out here for fun, or it is fun. I love what I do, but I'm not out there just to sightsee and go get a back number from Cheyenne and those rodeos, and then it, like you said, it took me a little bit of time, but now when I leave home, like there's one thing in mind, and that's winning, and whatever I have to do to give myself the best chance to win, that's what I'm going to do. I don't care what I have to do, but I'm all in. I'll do whatever it takes, and I think there's guys that think that's where they're at, and they're, like it can come down to getting up 2 hours earlier than some people and making sure your horse has got his supplements in, or horse pulls a shoe like maybe it used to. If my horse pulled a shoe, like, oh, I'll get it here in a few days, like he'll be fine. Or nowadays, you know, I take care of business a lot better than I used to.
I remember that when I was getting out of college. You know, when I was in college, you know, I got to go to Houston in my first year, my rookie year, and did good at the winter rodeos. Got through that way. Got to go to San Antonio. You know, I did good early, won rookie of the year, and you know, was out there, but it surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
It blew my skirt up, man. It was like, these guys are so good. They've got so many more horses. There's opportunities that I've seen that those guys did not mess up, that I was messing up. And rode good, just was trying to learn how to win.
Yeah.
And until I started getting around Tyler Magnus, he gave me a shot. He let me work for him. That got me around there to Lano, or then I was able to be around Speedy, was able to be around T, was able to be around some of the guys that were those guys. And, you know, then when I started winning and started kind of being able to see like, hey, this is paying off, I'm telling you, I got obsessed.
No, and same.
It almost has to consume you all day long in your thoughts of all the time. It created that hunger dog in me that I didn't know I had, because I also didn't know how much I was getting sidetracked with either maybe the beer tents, the chasing girls, you know, there's so many things that all of a sudden you look up. Those guys weren't doing it because they were in the arena. Yeah. You know, they were entering, they were doing, they were looking and seeing where the jackpots were at. You know, they were just consumed with it. And there's a certain amount of just to where there's a lot of guys that don't even know who the damn president is, because it doesn't matter for them.
Yeah, they're kind of along for the ride, and it's in this game. I like I said, I've learned the hard way through a lot of things. It's kind of kill or be killed. You know, I mean, these guys you're going against, there's a lot of us, we're good friends, but when it comes to competing, like you have to win to make this work. So any kind of edge you can get on somebody, I think you got to do it. It's worth it. You know. I've been on the other side long enough that I worked my whole life to get where I am now, and all I ever thought about growing up was, I want to make the NFR. I want to make the NFR. Like, that's all I want out of life is to make the NFR. Well, I made the NFR, and it is all it's talked up to be. You know, like for any amount of money, I wouldn't trade that experience for nothing my first time. And afterwards, it seemed like when I got home, it was cool. I got home for the summer, like it set in, like I made it. But it seemed like, we're busy roping, and then like, it was my first time. I took practice pretty serious. I got some fresh muleys. Like my roping was in a good spot. So I'm like, don't make this too big of a deal. Like, keep your practice, horse is good, and go out there, tend to business. And it went good. But then when I got home, it really set in. It's like, now that I've done that, I've got to dig a little deeper and see whatever it takes that I have to do, because as long as I'm rodeoing, I don't want to miss that again. Yeah. You know?
That's what I felt. I thought, man, if I could make NFR a couple of times, like that'd be a dream come true. And then I made it once. Then I got a chance to rope with Al, and that's when I really seen that there's way more to it.
It's addicting.
Well, heck, I was shoeing horses and still making the NFR. I was doing both, because I was like, I had a scarcity mindset to like, I'm not going to quit shoeing, because what if I quit winning?
Yeah.
And so, but then Al was like, well, while you're shoeing, these other guys are roping. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to quit that. You know, I'm going to have to learn how to make this work. And then I did. And then, man, that just drove me again. And yeah, it's something that, you know, you're always fighting and stuff like that to kind of figure out how to get that edge and stay winning. But I would say that like being able to get like Clay had to be just, that's your chance to find that dog in you, because like, well, first off, how did you and Clay start roping? Like, how did that whole thing work to be able to get to that next level header?
Clay and I just kind of started third partnering. I guess that would have been 3 winters ago, and I've probably not rightfully so, but I've always been that dumb kid that whenever I needed runs that are open, I would start at the top. You know, like I always had the attitude, all they can say is no. And what if they need one last minute or something? And so anyways, it's kind of funny. Clay didn't even remember it when I told him, but the very first open roping that I won was with Clay. I was maybe 14 or 15 years old in Ardmore, Oklahoma. They had it was like a George Strait format deal. I think it paid like $10,000 a man. And Clay called me. He needed a run, and I think I was maybe going to some amateur rodeos with Dustin Morgan at the time or something. So, hey, you want to come up here and rope with us? And I'm like, heck yeah. Well, I don't even have my driver's license at the time, and I load my horses and drive to Ardmore. And I think Clay was on Marty, and I was on the little bay that I bought from Patrick back in the day. And that was my first open roping win right there. It was cool. So then there was times that if at a small roping or something that guys weren't going to, Clay would give me a shout if he ever needed a partner. So that was cool. But Clay and I started third partnering 3 years ago, and nasty winter. Well, Clay had that indoor, and he always finds someone to rope over there, but he's kind of off the beaten path. I'm like, hey, when you need a healer, like I'll drive. I'll get up early and bring a load of horses and come rope. So we started roping together, and one thing turned into another. Here we are.
So you did a good job of putting yourself out there to where if there's ever anything you can do to help, I'm in.
Oh,
no matter
sure.
what.
For sure.
I can drop what I have. I can bring a load of horses.
For sure.
And make your day easier by coming and healing, giving yourself an opportunity to get behind those guys.
There's very few great headers, and there's quite a few healers that can get 2 feet. Most of the time, the great headers are not just gonna, dang sure a young guy, they're not just gonna be blowing you up, or they're not sitting at home thinking like, man, I wish I had this kid that's sitting at home and never made the NFR or never, I mean, you have to present yourself and be ready to capitalize on the opportunities you do get a chance, so it leaves a good impression, and them guys start to see, hey, this kid's all in. He wants to do what it takes to get where we're at, you know?
Well, I will say that the adversity that you had to go through between 2023 and 2024 by roping so good that year, you and Lightning, correct, in 2023 roped? You roped with a few different people, but maybe then you roped with Lightning there, maybe the end.
Clay and I started in 22. I roped with Lightning, I think
that one was
top 20 maybe.
That's right.
And then Clay and I's first year was 23, and that's when
So in 2022, you and Lightning roped quite a bit, right?
Yep.
And ended up, Lightning makes it, you don't.
Yep.
So then you got to watch your header that you roped with all year at the NFR, and you're at home. And then you finally get Clay Smith in 2023, correct?
Yep.
So then, like, this is your year.
Yep.
Man, I've got one of the guys, like, this is going to be the year.
Mm-hmm.
And end up rodeoing with him all year long. And same thing again. He makes the NFR. You're on the outside looking in. So for one, how did you get over that? Because that's a tough one. That's a blow.
No, it was, and just to remind people, it was the NFR controversy. I went over my rodeo count by 1, and
well, that was 2023, right?
That was 23.
2024 or 2022. That was just he had a little bit more money than you did.
The year before, Lightning, the winter before, so the winter of 22, I didn't get into any buildings. Well, Lightning won San Antonio with Jonathan, but we had a fair winter. All summer, it seemed like I'm just riding the roller coaster. You know, I'm 14th to 18th, and we had been to quite a few rodeos. Like, I remember about Pendleton week, we had 3 rodeos left or something, and I think Lightning had to win 8,500 to get in. Lightning was maybe 17th or so, but it was kind of starting to, that gap was coming, and people were kind of getting out of rodeos, and we had Pendleton, Albuquerque, and Amarillo left, and I knew that I was toast. I knew it wasn't going to happen for me with that amount of road. I think I still missed it by 10,000 that year, but for Lightning, I felt like I was fighting as hard as I would for myself. You know, like, that's your partner, and you want to.
So you're kind of learning the feel a little bit of what it's like to be on the chopping block.
Yeah, and it may be more pressure for someone else than it is me. You know, like, to this day, Lightning's one of my best friends. He's a great guy, and he's got a chance of a lifetime right here, and this is on me. You know,
that's a great way to look at it.
When he turns the steer, it's got to be 2 footers back there, and it worked out. I think in those 3 rodeos, we win like 12,000 and get him in. I was tickled to death for him. But
when you were able to help him get in, did that boost some confidence watching him at the NFR, and then he didn't make it? Did that really like give you some confidence next year, some drive, or was it kind of like,
you know, like
head down or not?
It gave me some confidence that when you've got that much pressure on you and you do come through, it gives you the confidence. And in this game, you almost got to lie to yourself a little bit, like, hey, like, I'm made for the high pressure situations, which is what we work for. Like, we work hard to get ourselves in those situations. You know, we want to have the finals made way before then, but there's a difference in the just good and great guys, and that's when everything's on the line and you got to come through at certain times, and that happens to everybody in this game. So that gave me some confidence, but it also gave me we did it. Next year it's on, you know. And Lightning and I had a pretty slow winter, and then I started roping with Clay, and it was like, I think when Clay and I started, he had already been to maybe 8 NFRs. I'm like, I just have to show up and get on my horse. Like, I'm going this year. Like, this is it. And I had my controversy not happened, I would have made I roped good to make the NFR, but I did not finish the season proud of myself for how I roped. You know, like,
what do you think was getting in your way?
Honestly, I don't, like, my one horse was 18 years old, so there's different styles of roping. Lightning might throw his whole rope, and the steers would kind of just hang on the end of it. Well, I'm on my old horse that I could almost, like, try to run him by the cow, and the steer's just hanging right there and pick him off, and it works. We win first. But also, we might not win for 3 weeks, and then we might ding them here and there. Clay is more out in the arena. Like I said earlier, he might turn 15 steers in a row, so everything is moving a lot faster. You know, like, a heel horse that can run is more important, and just the heeler being up and with the run. I felt like I was beat by the time I left the box, you know, like, I felt like, slow down, you know. And
so you were going through almost the mold then, or the different feel of when you're roping with the header that uses his rope, and now you're getting one of them headers that uses his horse.
Right. And
that is a different heel horse, isn't it?
No,
and
for sure.
And dang sure a different feel.
For sure. And I had Coon at the time, but the confidence in Coon wasn't there. I was just riding Old Faithful. I would get beat somewhere. I'm like, I'm going to get on Coon. We'd get there right before the perf starts. All right, I'm going to ride this old sucker one more time. Like, I just know him like the back of my hand, and it bit me, you know, like, it didn't work out. Like I said, we should have had the NFR made long before then, but it showed me more holes in my roping that was separating me. Like, I don't do this to want to get by. I want to be one of the best guys in the world, you know, and I was honest with myself to come home. Had some things to work on. I sold my old horse. He had paid his dues. He needed to go be a World Series horse. I got with my bay now, and that horse was, once I did put in the time and get with that horse, he was a game changer. That horse can fly. Like, I feel stupid for not camping out on him ever since I owned him, but so I can't change that now.
Well, it's amazing how much you learn from losing.
Yeah.
When a guy looks at it in the right way. I mean, learning how to get confidence comes from winning and preparing yourself for sure. But learning how to get to that point, there's a lot of losing along the way. And so most of the knowledge I gained was from losing.
No, for sure.
You know, this didn't work. How am I going to fix it? How am I going to learn from this mistake and get better? And that's part of it for sure, isn't it?
And it comes with a guy being honest with himself, or the guy that it was a bad handle, or this steer did this, and not, like, I knew for a fact, like, hey, I have to make some changes to get where I want to go. And if I can't make these changes, it's not worth doing this anymore. You know, so I would say start of 22, you know, I would say I was all in, but there was innocent mistakes I was still making that I didn't know, whether that be
That's a good way to put it.
Horsepower wise, like mentally, I'm like, I'm supposed to be at the top. Now looking back, my horse situation wasn't, I've always had nice horses. I'm not saying I did not have a chance, but I know I'm a guy, I have to have a really special horse. You know, I've always rode good horses, but I want to have one of the best heel horses. We spend enough money doing everything else in this game. Like, why not have the best chance we can? So my horsepower got better. That obviously helps your roping, and I made some changes myself too and getting with Clay more. Us making and I was glad that like Clay was on board the whole way when we got home. Like, hey, let's kind of grind this out for a minute. We would go to East Texas, Athens, Texas. We would go to some unofficial rodeos, like just trying to get a run. And, you know, most guys that have been there that many times is like, hey, kid, figure it out or don't. He was on board to go help me kind of get tapped off and get a feel that I wanted. And then one thing led to another. Right away, we win Fort Worth. And that was like, somebody asked me the other day, one of my biggest wins that helped get the ball rolling the right direction for me. And I would say it was Fort Worth that winter. Like it was 25,000 there. I've had bigger paydays, but that gave me some confidence right after a time that was really hard on me, the whole NFR deal. And I was pretty mad at the world for a little while.
So you go into 2023, you're on the chopping block, you and Clay rodeo together all year long, and you get to the Governor's Cup and win the first round, you're in. Well, then what happened after that? What all happened right there when you talked about the controversy of everything happened? What all happened?
So I knew when we won the first round, I want to say that was on a Thursday night, I'm pretty sure. I remember this all way too well, but 7 o'clock the next morning, you know, that night everybody's congratulating me. My phone's going crazy, and it's just, I had not been roping good, but it was just like, it's over. Like, we can fix this when we get home, but it's over. I made it. Well, 7 o'clock the next morning, my phone, I start getting messages. Why is your money not in? Why is your money not in? And I'm like, who cares? Like, they mess up all the time. Like, it's over with. Like, let's have fun now. By that afternoon, I'd probably had 20 phone calls or text messages, and I call up there and I'm like, hey, why is my money not in? And rumor around there, I get wind that people, man, Coleby might have been out of rodeos or something. And then somebody over there asked me, oh, so-and-so said maybe you're out of rodeos. And right there, I'm like it hit me. I'm like, no way I made this mistake. Because I remember at Pendleton probably calling 10 or 12 times because we had the rodeos to burn, but we were on the chopping block. So like I told Clay, I said, I'm sorry we got to do this. But us missing NFR with a bullet to burn, we're not going to miss it by $80 or something stupid. Like, we might have to do a little flying, but we're going to enter the 13-team rodeo at Omaha, or let's get to them. Well, I called the office and they said, no, you're all good. You're at 73 rodeos, and the only thing that hasn't processed is Pasadena and Sioux Falls. And I said, well, I can't even remember what the number was. It could have been,
because the rodeo count back then was 75.
Yeah,
correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can go to as many rodeos as you want. You can go to 150 rodeos if you want, but you can only official 75.
Yep.
So if you want to go to, a little backyard rodeo that doesn't add much, you can call and you can unofficial it. I want to unofficial this rodeo for my rodeo standings. But then when you just regular enter a rodeo, you don't have to say anything, because if you just enter it, it's going to count. Correct.
Yep.
You have to basically tell them, I want to.
You have to check the box, unofficial or official. Mm-hmm. And I had already done all my homework on that. And so, long story short, I had a list on my phone of all my rodeos. I had a mistake on my end. So I don't know if you remember that year, the system got hacked or whatever happened, and you had to call.
That was that year, wasn't it?
You had to call and enter old school, call back, get your callbacks. Well, online, what I do is whenever I hit submit entry, I write the rodeo down on my phone. Well, Jake Smith enters this in the summer. This is right in the middle of it is Canby, Oregon. I didn't write Canby down in my notes. So I'm off one, and the PRCA is off one. So when I call, Clay's calling, double checking, like, what can we go? It was a perfect storm. Me being off one, them being off one, and come to find out it was my circuit finals that wasn't in their system, and we'll never know why. I mean, they said freak deal. Yes, they make mistakes, but as far as on paper, rodeoing just never existing on your portal or anything, and I took all the bashing in the world over social media for that deal, and no one ever heard my side of it, which honestly, I didn't even care. I didn't care what anyone thought. No one else paid my fees or paid my fuel or put the time into that moment that I did.
That, and a lot of people don't even understand how complicated this is.
No, and I went into it to the PRCA after we got it all sorted out, and I said, hey, I made a mistake. Y'all helped me make this mistake, but I said, I found a rodeo that I went to on my sheet as well. It wasn't like I was arguing the fact that my argument is there's no way in hell I'm going to go to Omaha, Nebraska as my 75th rodeo that pays $1,100 when I'm going to Sioux Falls, the one that's really going to make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the PRCA told me, because I was just like, screw it. Everything went silent. My money never got put in. People were asking. And I'm like, man, there's a lot going on. Well, they said, you need to file a grievance on this deal. And I'm like, well, I said, don't just make me feel good about the deal. I said, I messed up. Y'all messed up. It's on me. See you next year. No, you need to file a grievance. Da-da-da-da-da. Well, 2 grievances get turned down. And they told me at the PRCA, they said, all right, it might have been, just say November 14th, you can no longer fight this anymore. Well, November 14th, Tom Glaus calls me and he says, Coleby, I haven't got your 3rd grievance that goes to the grievance committee yet. And I said, Tom, I've been pissing in the wind for a month now. I said, I'm over it. I said, anyone that hears this deal is obviously, and I'm in agreement that, yes, this is a mistake on both of our ends, and it sucks for me, but that's not bad on the guy that got his correct count in, either. And I said, the only way this is going to work is if you take 16 guys. Well, we're not doing that. I said, whatever. And so he said, I'm telling you, you need to fight this. He said, we agree, and like, that's sitting right. I'm like, really? He said, yeah. Well, I get off the phone. That evening, I get home and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to forward the same message that I originally sent. Like, hey, I went to da-da-da-da-da. Here's the screenshots, everything.
Of them basically telling you that this was your 75th rodeo.
This is my 75th rodeo. This is what I got. Here's confirmation numbers that you can go track all these phone calls, and here's what I've been told, the whole deal. Well, I guess a week or 2 later, we have this grievance meeting, and I'm like, no way. Well, I do the grievance meeting. I go back down to the barn. I'm saddling horses, and I get an email. Coleby has won the grievance. And I call Steve. I said, Steve, am I reading this right? He said, yep, you won. He said, I told you, you needed to fight for that. And I said, well, what about the 15th guy now? And he said, well, he's out. And I said, that isn't right. And he said, I will say he can file a grievance now also. And so now me and Clay are NFR practicing. Like, we've been all over the board. Well, me and Clay are NFR practicing. We roll on. Well, Clay's pulling into the house after Worley files his grievance, and then I'm saddling horses, and Clay's pulling up the driveway, and I get an email, and I'm looking at my phone about time Clay pulls up, and I'm sure he could see the look on my face. I went to unsaddling my horses. I said, Clay, I said, sorry you drove all the way over here, but I said, I'm not touching a rope or a horse. I need a minute, and then it pissed me off that I was led on the roller coaster for that long, because
that's a roller coaster. That's September 31st to what you're saying.
Yeah,
the middle of November.
By October 3rd, it could have been, hey, kick rocks, get ready for next year, and it's a done deal. The roller coaster of it and all the back and forth, it wasn't real cool. But I took 1 week off. I didn't rope, ride, nothing, and which is good. I was mad at everything, everybody that I shouldn't have been. I needed a little break, and from then on, it kind of lit a different kind of fire in me. And now looking back, I wouldn't that was one of the hardest moments in my life, but I wouldn't trade that because it made me better. It made me tougher. I felt like everybody was against me, and I was the clown on Facebook that couldn't count, and it was like, man, screw you people, and for Fort Worth right away, like I said, that quick into it and get a win, it
had to be some monkey off your back right there.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah.
And then the wins throughout it, it was kind of like, where are you people at now?
What do you think you learned from that? Because a lot of us have been there. We were Nazis when it come to rodeos. So like I had everything written down, double checked. We would go through like with my partner, what do you have? Then you'd always constantly talking to the PRCA, which they half the time would have it wrong. There was nothing. They were almost like the IRS. They're not going to get it right, and then to get a hold to somebody. But like, it got a little bit better at the end of my career. A lot of times what they would email back and we would check it off the list. A lot of things were pretty close, because I tell you what was really hard was when they would give those remember those American qualifiers, them rodeos, you give them all-American rodeos, remember that? Well, you could unofficial them. That's when it threw everything off. Well, did I remember to unofficial this one or official them? I mean, it got tricky to be able to keep the count right. Okay, this count is for my NFR. This count is to get to the enough road, because you had to go 30 of them.
Yep.
With all those all-American rodeos, they barely had any money at it. So then you're trying to make sure, because you don't want one of those to count toward the NFR, and it is all there.
Yeah.
But I've also been at it a while. Like, that's why I always wanted to do the books. I always wanted my head in the game. I always wanted to have the control of that, because I just know that like how hard it is for that to basically go in the wrong direction. When you did that, there's always something that you learn. You know what I mean? So what did you feel like you learned to where that was, this shit is not happening again?
One thing I learned is never rely on the PRCA's information. And they tell you that. I mean, when you go on your deal, it does say this is unofficial information. I've learned that you cannot double check this stuff enough, and I think because I always kind of handled that for Clay and I both, like keeping up with it. I think Clay, like at the end of last year, went through all of his stuff. Like, we made sure everybody's on the same page. And that's also something that I could rodeo 20 more years, or we may not ever hear of something like that again, like that. It is something crazy that happened, but it's one of them deals. At that point, there was no choice but to move on and take care of business better the next year.
Yeah, like you said, it had to have a little bit of redemption feel, and like after Fort Worth.
For sure.
Back to get a big win. We're back, ready, and had a great year last year.
Yeah.
I think your jackpotting, I heard, was real strong. Is that right?
We did awesome jackpot. We won as much jackpotting as we did in PRCA.
I think I talked
total.
To somebody that's around 200,000 from it.
Yeah,
right?
225 in the PRCA and 224 jackpotting. Like, I tell you where I took that from the year before is last year. I wrote down my winnings, like kind of have an idea what it costs to do this. Like we do, we jackpot a lot. So by no means is that profit. That's every dollar that went through our hands, but it was definitely a good year. And for me, it kind of got me on my feet, and my first kind of year to get on top. And now if I can maintain it, it'll make things a little bit easier.
Well, what did that first NFR feel like after all that bullshit that went on? When you got there and set foot and seen the Yellow Arena, what was it like?
It was rewarding. Like, I would say my circle got a little bit smaller after all that, because I learned in this game, no one else's opinion matters in this deal whatsoever. We all have guys that we look up to and that we respect their opinion that you can talk to about things. But at the end of the day, like, you might have 5 people in your life that truly care how good you do or want to see you good. So not just to prove everyone wrong, but more for myself to get there. Like, it was a good accomplishment, and I tried not to get caught up in how big of a deal it is and get off track in the lights and all the people, like they treat you like a king around there that week. And I tried to tell myself, go into it like, hey, I'm still here to make as much money as I can, and I thought I roped pretty good at the finals.
Man, you
like
roped real
everything,
tight. Looked really good.
it went good. Nothing felt uncomfortable to me, but
It looked like you had been there before.
I will say, no matter how it looked, and that all your old guys that you talk to, like when I'm setting up NFR Arena, they're like, hey, you can practice it all you want, but until you get there, like, there ain't nothing like it. And I'm like, okay, you're just saying that because I've never been there before, but that is true. Like, you can run that run through your head 10 million times your whole life, and I will never forget the feeling of round one backing in there for the first time, and like, that guy's ahead of you and in the moat right there. There's one team before you, and it's like, hey, it's game time, and they open that gate, and it's your time, and you ride in there, and there's 20,000 people on top of you, and like I said, it felt good. Everything went good, but it's a feeling like no other, which I'm glad that it is that way, or else it wouldn't be so special to make it, you know?
It probably had to feel a little bit like a goat roping because it's so fast.
No,
the
it
gates
is.
bang, the freaking rope, and then they're hopping fast, and then bam, it's over with. You look done, and you're like, I've been waiting my whole life for that run right there. That only took 3 or 4 seconds.
It is. And after my runs and the run through, like, I think we run 4 steers. Everyone was a good run. Everything went good. And I sent my videos to Rich, and he called me. He said, that looks good. He said, but don't compare that to anything. He said, I'm telling you, them steers get out of the gate faster than anywhere you've ever been. So the first 3 rounds, like, I start, like, kind of not front of the box, but middle of the box, like, go and like I heeled the first 2 steers. Well, the third steer, I'm kind of closer to the back of the box, and in the run through, this steer loped. Well, this steer takes off out of there and steps, and I'm nowhere to be seen. And Rich said, I told you, he said, I'm telling you, you cannot get out of there fast enough. So after that, I literally got up in the mouth of the box. Like, the steer, I could just look over my left shoulder to find the steer. He was right there. But after that, it felt kind of like a game changer to me, to where whenever we did have the steer something set up to get some good round money, I was up there and heeling where I need to be.
It is. It's a game changer when you go there, because you're exactly right. Like Rich was saying, that they're not breaking yet when you're running them through. Like when you're in the run throughs, you're there, the setup's there, but the steers are not the same.
Yep.
You know, they may have a pusher, they may not, but I'm telling you, I don't know if they prep them again after that. I don't know if they run them or juice them or whatever, but I'm telling you, when you nod your head, they are not what they were like. You might see what their pattern was, but when they have a pusher in there, it is so fast, and you can't express that enough. Like, I had 5 rookie healers that I took there, and that was one of the things that I would always tell them I can do. We would even have pushers here practicing, and it's still not the same.
Yep.
You know, and we would do as much as we could, but just talking like what you said is like, I'm telling you, when it happens, when the nod they're going to be gone.
Yep.
It's so fast there.
Well, the biggest thing I got out of practice was making sure my horses felt like, when it's happening that fast, making sure my horses felt good when I left home helped, because really we rope good enough that if we ride good position, we're supposed to catch more than we mess up, you know? So now looking back after all of it, my practice went good. I had some fresh muleys, like, they were pretty juicy, but I also thought that my horse was like dialed in out there, and that can make things easy. You know, no matter how good the horse is, if you're just kind of slower paced jackpotting a little bit. And one thing I did is I would make sure that my horse was rolling out of the gates, and I even had to bump it up in the box a little bit to make sure I was getting far enough down the arena. But every time I felt like I hit the turn good and everything, the roping part of it still felt pretty natural.
Yeah, it's always good to have a successful practice session and a successful NFR to where you kind of feel like there's a recipe, especially after, I think, too, coming from being a rookie. But I would have to say Clay Smith would probably, having him as the quarterback, that's got to be so much easier where you have some guidance and some knowledge and wisdom to be. For
sure. And honestly, like, when it comes to advice, like, he's the old guy, but he's hardly ever told me anything that made me feel like I'm the kid in this deal. You know, like, everything's a pretty team deal, and we'll come up with a game plan. And like, our game plan going into the finals was kind of get to making some runs, like place along, and wanted to do good in the average. And really, I felt like for what our game plan was, our run was pretty consistent to that. You know, we were 3 on 1 steer. That was cool. But I think I think if a guy tries to do too much right away and it doesn't go good, you can look up and have a really bad.
What was your guys' mentality going in? What did he talk about? Like what? Because I know he had to be leading it, because this is your first one. So what was the game plan going into that year's NFR?
Our game plan, like practicing and stuff, was just, to us, it was like, if we rope like we should, we're going to place on the steers that don't just set up to wipe out. And then when we do get the one that might let up or step right a little bit and it happens real fast, we might win a round or third or better in a round, but not take ourselves out of it. That was our plan, is just not make too much of a big deal. Just go rope and have our horses kind of dialed in going into it. And really, I think that's how it went. Nothing. Maybe we weren't the deadliest team in the go rounds, but our roping felt good. Like all week out there, I never felt confused with my roping. Like if anything, like I said, it was, hey, get further up in the box and get ahead of the run right off the bat. But everything felt pretty good.
Well, man, you guys were there 10 round or going into the 9th round. You guys went in the average going in the 10th round, correct?
Yep.
So talk about that. You guys, I thought your guys' game plan was exactly that when I was watching it. And it was all there for all the taken to be going in the 10th round. Then what happened?
Just a freak deal. I know when you're watching on TV, it's easy to have an opinion.
Because you guys had a lead.
Yeah,
correct.
We had to just catch the steer.
Just had to go catch the steer
to
win the average.
To win the average, yep. And it's just a freak deal. I think probably you would agree that a lot of us would have lost everything we had. That it does not matter if Clay has to get down there and put it on his head. Like, he is turning this steer, and a freak deal. That happens to anybody in this game. Just so happens it was in round 10 of the NFR, but stuff happens. I'll go to war with that guy any day of the week. He's that does not happen. It did.
I can't remember. Did he split him? I couldn't remember what happened. I couldn't remember. I figured you were right.
I think he missed the slack and it come off the right horn.
That's what happened.
And then
it was just a bobble.
It come off, and he went to fish, and when he did, he had slack on the ground and his horse stepped over it. So then he has to get that out, and in the meantime his loop's getting smaller on the steer's head, and it was just one of those things that...
It's one of those nightmares you have.
It wasn't meant to be.
And you're hoping to wake up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when I watched it, I'm like, oh man, that's so cool right there. Freaking your first year, going to win the average. Like, it's going to be awesome. And then Clay missed a berry a little bit. The steer stepped over. I'm like, oh, like I said, he'll bulldog him if he has to turn.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, not one time, like, oh, this is going to be a tough shot right here a little bit. And then he missed. And I'm like, no way. Like, the air came out of the team roping industry because Clay, like, no way.
Yeah.
Like, no way. That dude doesn't
I would have
drop
lost
balls.
everything I had. But
yeah,
like I said, maybe if he ducks him back right there, maybe I get the steer by the front legs or something. I mean, the craziest things
I know.
can happen.
Isn't it so crazy in there?
Yep.
That arena is so small, and I'm telling you, the things that can happen in that little arena. To me, just trying to go catch one there is probably one of your hardest shots.
It's hard,
especially if they step it all. If they step it all, then the left hand side you can feel the V coming when you're running out of room, and it is. It's when he missed. I was like, there is no way.
Yeah.
And then I could only imagine then what everyone else behind him that was running the world title. I mean, they had to be just reconfiguring everything.
Well, that changed some stuff up.
Everybody just had you guys winning it. Like, you guys are going to win it. They're playing around that. And then they had to be counting on their toes after that.
Yeah. About round 6, round 7, we had maybe won 5th or 6th in a couple rounds. We did talk, and it was like, hey, next year, we're not out here to win the average. Next year, let's be in the fight for a gold buckle, because we still won 90,000, 91,000 or something at the NFR. So I've had worse weeks, like that's a fair NFR. I'm not saying it was just a home run, but there's also guys that didn't have that good of a week. That's a lot of money. And it was the way we went about it is kind of how we had prepared for, but we knew that some stuff was really going to have to go our way to win the world title going into it. So we didn't want to beat ourselves up and ruin our whole week trying to do too much. But it's also kind of a scary roller coaster to ride. Is come round 7, it's like, all right, maybe we've only won 20,000 in the rounds, and if we do miss now, we've had a really bad week.
Everything.
And so it's a fine line of, like you said, it's not good to think, hey, we're just going to go win the average. You still have to go at the steers in there.
Yeah. Yeah, a guy can be aggressively controlled in that arena and keep plucking them, and if you do all 10, that's the average.
Yeah.
But you're winning money along the way and using the steers you got.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the game strategy that he said was what so many people do. And like I say, when he missed the last one, you could feel a cold breeze from hell because it had to have froze over.
I felt bad for him because Clay still has the fire in him. Like, I mean, 2-time world champion. He's been there 10 times, but like, losing bothers him, and I think you have to be that way, but I felt just as bad for him because there's nothing that anyone, and I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I'm hard on myself whenever I mess up, one for myself, but I'm costing him money too, and in that moment, there's nothing that anyone else can say or do to help what's going on. It's a personal thing, and you kind of step away for a minute and get things lined out, and then, like I said, this winter, he's got that stud back, and I see a fire and confidence in Clay like maybe I haven't seen in him since we started roping. And it's pretty exciting that 10 or 11 trips to the finals, 2 gold buckles, that he's still hungry as ever.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that'll light your ass on fire again is probably that one that he missed, because that does not happen.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. How hard is it after that NFR to go to Odessa? Is it not hard? The times that I've been in the NFR and then 3 weeks later you're Odessa and you're like, it all starts over again. Like, that was so fast.
It is. I was just telling a good friend of mine, a younger kid that's coming up, just asked me yesterday, like, he's roping good at home, like his roping's getting good, and I'm like, you got to go compete now. And that's something that I learned more since roping with Clay. Like, Clay doesn't like to miss a jackpot. We're used to it was all about rodeoing, and now going and competing, I think, is what keeps the guy sharp, and if a guy's sharp at the small stuff and has the confidence, whenever you get an opportunity for something big, you're prepared, and so my advice to a buddy of mine was, hey, go compete. But yes, when you get home from Vegas, I actually went on an elk hunt for a few days, so I didn't just come home from the NFR, I went elk hunting. And that about killed me. That was a crazy experience. So
Where'd
then,
you go?
Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Did you get one?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
Yep, got one.
Did you get the back strap?
Yes, I haven't actually got it yet, but
it's my favorite meat.
Well,
in the whole
it might
world.
be your lucky day because I don't eat that.
Oh,
I don't eat that.
Gosh, that is the best. My favorite steakhouse in the whole world is in San Angelo, Western Skies. And my next favorite is elk meat.
Really?
Oh my gosh, that back strap.
Yeah, I told him I wanted it because it's like, man, I killed this thing. I'll try it one more time, but it's not really my deal.
That stuff is amazing. I love it. Now, deer can be a little gamey. I think mule deer is pretty good, but there's some deer.
I've never had. I'm not a hunter, so this whole elk hunt deal was a big deal. So my neighbors, Cody Wilson, Cole Wilson, they've become like family to me. Well, we were talking about hunting one night, and I'm like, yeah, I tried deer hunting one time. Funny story, I went 5 days in a row, couldn't hit a deer, and then figured out my scope was off. Like, the screws were loose, so every time I would miss, I'm like, it's not the gun. I'd go to the shooting range, they'd sight it in. Well, my screws weren't tight, so every time I'd leave the shooting range, it was off. So I'm like, yeah, this is what I've done, and they're like, they surprised me. We went to dinner one night, and they said, hey, we're taking you elk hunting. I'm like, hey, like, I'm not a hunter. Like, I don't.
That's a heck of an experience.
Get ready.
Yeah.
So I went, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
Anyways, you get home from that, and you're like, finally, I get to take a deep breath, and it's like, hey, it's time to go to Odessa. So it doesn't end for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The just like the snap of a fingers, and then it starts over.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then you start from scratch and do it all over again.
What about Superstar? Clay Smith was telling me about Superstar, Maybe you're shoot dogging?
Yeah, so that's funny. So I need surveillance cameras at my arena is what I need. So Clay is getting ready for the timed event. I bought some bulldogging steers from a guy, and they were like most of them were all good to team rope, but he's like, hey, this set went to the American at Vegas. There's this red and white paint. He said, that's Superstar. He said, on the ground, he is unbelievable. Like, you can cartwheel him. He said, but he's too fast for him. I'm like, perfect. He'll be good at team rope. Well, I get him home, and this sucker high lopes. And when the head rope goes on, like, you can't hardly turn him. He follows like a number 7-point steer that's just been roped for 2 years, you know? So I tell Clay when he's at the house roping one day, I said, hey, if you want to get ready, like, I'll haze Superstar for you one day. And he laughs. Well, I'm getting me a cell barn pin put together. I'm cutting ear tags out, getting them ready, taking the wraps off, and Superstar's in the chute. And it's one of the cold winter days a while back. And I'm out there by myself, and I'm like, I'm going to see what Superstar's about. So I get him in the chute, and I get up there, and I got the button on my belt. I open the gate, and I had hands on him, but I missed him. He kicked up at me, and I told Clay, I said, that would be about right. I'm out there by myself, going to shoot dog this 400 and 500 pound Mexican out here and get kicked in the head or something. Nobody knows what happened to me, but yeah, Clay didn't want no part of him.
Clay didn't want no part of him. Is that your first shoot dogging experience?
No, I actually used to shoot dog in the junior rodeos, but I had to quit. I broke too many necks, so
yeah, I understand.
They kind of banned me from all the
the steers just weren't big enough.
Right.
Yeah.
I crippled too many.
Crippled too many. Just slam dunk it and then 1 point falls.
Yeah, you can come team rope, but you can't come shoot dog anymore.
You're banned. Well, you guys got a big week coming up this week, don't you? You got T-Wade's roping, the World Youth team roping and breakaway, the Lone Star shootout start Friday, I believe, correct?
Lone Star shootout starts in the morning.
In the morning.
Yeah.
And then when do you rope at Houston?
Tomorrow night. So
how's that going to work?
Clay and I think Paul Eves is on with us also. We went from having 9 people on an 8-seat plane down to 3.
Got it.
But we got the Lone Star shootout in the morning. I think as long as we rope, like, within the first 3 rotations, we'll fly right out of Abilene, right to Houston. We're going to send our horses down there.
So charter over there.
Yep, we'll charter over there. And if our plan works out right, what we'll do is Lone Star in the morning, Houston tomorrow night, and then drive back home with the horses, and then go to T-Wade's World Youth roping Friday, Lone Star shootout short round Saturday, and back to Houston short round Sunday.
Nice. What about the BFI? They've got some adversity this year. I've seen where the short round at Austin is during the BFI this year.
It is, and we don't have to worry about that because we didn't do good at Austin. But
okay,
our plan going into Austin was just to go at the day monies and then be on stamp. I mean, if I get a leg or something on the first 2 at the BFI, hey, we'll head to the short round at Austin. But
because isn't the BFI is it on Sunday?
Yep.
Most short rounds are on Saturday, so I don't know if Austin moved their short round or what happened. But
I don't know either.
They're
but
definitely over the top of each other.
I think they're
definitely at the charter if they're going to do it.
Yep, and I think they did take 25 less teams at the BFI now, maybe starting an hour early. Like,
try to see if they can help.
I think if a guy has a plane sitting right there and everything goes smooth, I think a guy could probably make it.
Nice. Well, man, you're having a stellar year, man. Congratulations. You're off to a good start. Man, you got your guys' team looks good. I think it's going to be a heck of a year for you guys. So,
well, thank you.
Appreciate you coming on, man, and finish them off this year.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You betcha, boy. Hello, everyone. If you've been wanting to get into team roping or improve your skills as a beginner header, now's your chance. Join us for the NRS Beginner Headers Only Clinic at the NRS Arena in Decatur, Texas, April 25th through the 27th. This clinic is designed just for the beginner headers up to a number 3, focusing on roping the horns, solid horsemanship, and the fundamentals you need to build confidence and stay safe while having a great time. And if you can't make it in April, we've got another clinic happening October 3rd through the 5th. So you've got another chance to get in on the action. Don't miss out. Spots fill up fast. Head over to charlycrawford.training or check the podcast description to get the link to enroll. We'll see you in Decatur.